Welcome to GBAC. This month we'll be looking at Saudi Arabia as an emerging market and how the boards can play into it. Agenda for the work, we'll look at Saudi capital markets, Buyside, US Buyside and Global Buyside into Saudi Arabia, their sovereign investment fund, public investment fund. We'll also take a look at their corporate governance, how board structures are there in Saudi Arabia. I'll interview a friend of mine, Joseph Rossi, who sits on the Saudi real estate refinance company, which came into being to spur up the housing market out of Vision 2030. Vision 2030 is where Saudi Arabia is moving from oil dependency to privatization. Good news about me, I will be teaching Chinese boardrooms and German boardrooms. Saudi Arabia being bumped into as an emerging market by MSCI, by FTSE Russell and S&P Dow Jones is going to be pumping about conservative estimates about 30 to 40 billion dollars. This is significant. As the largest stock exchange in the Middle East and North Africa, we as boards want to be understanding boards, how we can be part of this. This is really the question for board chairs to understand. Larry Fink, who is the founder of BlackRock, the largest asset manager on the planet, more than 6 trillion, was in April, about last 2 months ago, in Saudi Arabia in the conference, as you can see in the screen. And he said that the press is actually making him run towards Saudi Arabia rather than run away from Saudi Arabia. HBSC has created an ETF. Asset managers are creating funds that will be housing Saudi Arabian stocks. So this is something to understand. A little bit about their investment fund. It's the largest on the planet. More than $320 billion on assets under management. They've been investing consistently in innovative technology, concentrated stocks like Tesla, Uber, innovation through artificial intelligence stocks, a big heavy buyer of US Treasuries, 170 billion worth, and a large debt holder. This is March data. What do Germany need to understand? Germany need to understand that Saudi might be stock owners of your company, and how to interact with them as shareholders, and they may become large shareholders. This is a concern to just keep in the back of your mind. US President Trump is very pro Saudi Arabia, very friendly relationship with Saudi Arabia and US Trump administration. The board structure of Saudi Arabia is very similar to US and UK. They have a board of directors, a management, much different than the German. There's nothing like that in Saudi Arabia. So it's traditional US UK kind of a similar format. Good news about me, I am actually hired as a visiting professor in Tongji Menham Executive MBA program, and I'll be teaching in Shanghai this year. And I'll be traveling many places, teaching board of director courses to their executives. And just a little bit about me, international strategy management. Let's get to Joe Rossi's interview. Good afternoon, everybody. Today we have a very interesting market, Saudi Arabia, one of the G20 countries. And we have Joe Rossi, who is on the board of directors from SRC. Joe, welcome to GBAC.
Again, our objective is to make mortgages more affordable, more available, more accessible in the local Saudi marketplace. I'm actually on the credit committee, and a large part of a young company is putting in place proper processes, controls, procedures, policies, communication of those policies, procedures, and processes. So that's a big part of what we've done in this first year, along with the infrastructure you would expect in any finance company.
Okay, good. How many board members are on the company?
Approximately 8. Okay. And of the 8, there's about 2 board members who are American, and with a large and deep mortgage finance background.
Right. Just for the audience, you have a background with Freddie Mac, which is a government-sponsored enterprise, one of the facilitators of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, facilitating the mortgage market in the United States. So we used to work there. But my question to you is, how similar is it by function, your company, as compared to Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac? I mean, not the size, but how much similar in function?
So in terms of function, you'd see a lot of similarities. Okay. But again, I would say that for any, we've examined many mortgage refinance companies around the world, and to the extent that their objective is to provide the secondary market with liquidity and access to alternative finance sources, you would see very similar types of functions. It is an independent auditor.
Okay.
And I would say that the controls and audit, processes for the SRC are similar to what you would see to any public company.
Do you see a lot of Americans working throughout Saudi Arabia in different public companies and private companies?
International experienced management team and board that is working side by side and very collaboratively with local resources and managers and directors. So it's a nice mix and a very diverse mix.
Good. How many board meetings do you have in a year? And do you travel to Saudi Arabia for those, or how are they conducted?
So we travel to Saudi Arabia 4 times a year for quarterly board meetings. The exciting thing about the SRC, it's a relatively new company.
Okay.
And so we have followed it through from a vision to an idea to really a practical, working, functioning business that is serving the community and our customers.
Are you open to other board seats? And if so,
Yeah.
in which countries?
I think I'm retired from Freddie Mac, but I've spent all my career in financial services. And so I would be open. I have an operations and technology and risk control background.
Okay.
So those are the things I bring to the table. And really, I don't know that there's any place that I wouldn't go.
How many foreign institutions are now investing in Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, one of the objectives of the SRC is to get a very diverse set of financing sources, both domestic and through foreign sources as well. So at some point in time, and again, we're a very young company, we're working up to this.
Right.
The issuance of Saudi-based MBS securities, mortgage-backed securities, would be one of our objectives, and making that appealing, attractive for foreign investors is clearly on the agenda. We're not there yet, but that's something that we're working towards. And to the extent that our organization, the SRC, is being developed to address foreign investor, we do see growth in the housing market in Saudi Arabia. And right now, it's about 290 billion SARs. But that's going to grow. We believe it'll grow to at least 500 billion SARs by 2020, in alignment with Vision 2020.
Right,
and over 10 years, there's a possible growth of to 800 billion SARs. So we think that there's growth in the marketplace.
How were you approached by the Saudis for this board position?
Largely, it was my mortgage background at Freddie Mac and an interest to consult on building the business case for a Saudi-based refinance company. I worked at a large consulting firm out of Boston. You can guess who that might be. And I think we worked largely to build the business case from the idea, and it was a vision really coming out of the Ministry of Housing and Finance. So once we finished with the business case, I was invited very directly to participate on the board. I'm very grateful for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Great. I'm really happy for you. We wish you all the best. Thank you. Again, Joe, for taking the time to give us some insights about Saudi Arabia, the market, and how it's growing in the housing market. So it's really good to know. And I think this would be interesting for our audience. Thank you, Joe. And we wish you a wonderful year for the coming year. Great.
Look forward to seeing you in person in Washington.